Hey everybody, I'm JJ, you're watching Reality Survival, and today I just want to talk about the 10 most important things for new preppers. Now, some of these might be physical items, some of them just might be pieces of advice, just thoughts, I guess, just things to think about for new preppers, people who are just getting into this. After 2020 and COVID and all that kind of stuff, there have been a lot of people who started to realize, hey, maybe this whole prepping thing ain't quite so stupid and is not tinfoil hat craziness and all that kind of thing, because stuff does happen sometimes. And so I've got 10 things here, and these are I just kind of went down like what are some of the things that I would want to impart to people. There's definitely more than should be on the list, but I want to try to keep it somewhat reasonable in length, so we're just going to go with 10 for now. So, number one is settle down. It's okay. If you get consumed by all of the doomsday talk, if you feel an overwhelming sense of doom or impending doom, if you think that the world is going to end soon and there's going to be catastrophe on a wide scale level just around the corner, it's going to happen right now, I would just encourage you to take a breath and slow down. The world is not going to come to an end tomorrow. It's not going to come to an end 10 years from now or 20 years from now. We might have some disruptions. We might have some ups and downs and that kind of thing, but we're still on the march. We're still moving forward through time, and that is not likely to change. Is it possible that something could happen? Maybe, but it's very low probability. So you have some time. So I would just urge you to not make any rushed impulses or purchases or anything like that. Just take a step back, take some time to start thinking about educating yourself, and really slow down. Way too many people, including myself, when I've heard, overblown news stories, have gone out and made irrational purchases and done dumb things with money and all that kind of stuff that didn't necessarily need to happen if people had just taken a beat and relaxed a little bit. So that's one thing. That's the number one thing that I would encourage you is do your research, slow down. Don't believe anybody on YouTube. Don't believe me. Don't believe anybody, really. You can't trust much that's out there these days. Everything that I tell you guys on this channel, you should research and verify on your own. You should look into it and say, is he lying? Is that true? Is that not true? And even just because you've watched me for a long time doesn't mean that you should trust me. Sometimes I'm writing these scripts and it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I might mess up, right? It happens, so you really should fully research everything yourself. And that takes time. So that goes kind of back to number one. So with number two, do some research or through personal observation or whatever, and find out what are the most likely events to happen in your area. List out the top 3 or 4 that happen with some frequency, and then that'll help you to start to kind of give you an idea of what are the things that you're most likely to encounter. Because you can't really, or you shouldn't really, move forward unless you start addressing things in a way that makes the most sense. And the way that makes the most sense for most people is to look at the local or regional type events that happen with some frequency in your area. Now, they might not be a huge impact, but they happen regularly, right? If you get prepared for all of those things, then you can start moving into the very unlikely items that are, way more impactful, okay? But start with that stuff that is more likely to happen. So, number 3 is something that is pretty likely to happen, and it's look at getting 10-pound fire extinguishers in your home. Place them in areas of your home that a fire is most likely to start. So perhaps your kitchen, your garage, your basement, wherever your home heating system is, those kind of things. You might also consider getting an emergency smoke hood or gas masks. that have smoke filters, as well as fire blankets and escape ladders. The reason is that house fires are one of the most likely ways that you will experience a true SHTF situation in your life. Look at the people in Maui recently, right? That's so crazy and so unexpected and all that kind of stuff. Not to say that several 10-pound fire extinguishers would have stopped those houses from burning necessarily or whatever, but certainly it could have given you a little bit more time to get out. It might have helped you clear a path so that you could have escaped. You know, there's a lot of different factors there. But for a regular average house fire, if you have multiple 10-pound fire extinguishers in your home and you're there when the fire starts, you'll probably be able to put it out. And so that is a huge advantage. When it comes to gas masks and smoke filters, I've got an affiliate link below where you can take a look at Mira Safety. They just came out with actual smoke filters that are made for that very thing. So you could get the mask and then you could have smoke filters. You could put one of those, you know, next to each person's bed or up under in the nightstand, up underneath it. That's kind of where I've got the ones that we got. And that way they can, if they wake up and there's smoke in the house in the middle of the night, they can pull that thing out first, and that's just going to help them be able to negotiate and get through the smoke a little better. Now, notice I say a little better. It's not perfect, and it's not creating oxygen, but it does help you breathe a little better. I've done some tests on some in the past, and there's no question that they are effective for a limited amount of time. It's not indefinite, though. So think about fire preparation. That's something high on the list there. That was number 3. So number 4 is get some medical training and a good medical kit for you and your home and your vehicle. You're very likely to experience a car wreck or a serious accident, you know, or some sort of an event that's going to require medical attention. You just look at the stats on this. You know, accidents kill people quite often, you know, and bleeding out and stuff like that is a big part of that. So having the knowledge and the capability to treat those wounds is really, really valuable. Now, it all depends on what your financial capabilities are. You could go with just a basic boo-boo kit like this from Refuge Medical. I can save you guys 10% with the discount code Reality Survival over there. Or I've got another video in the past where I've showed like just putting together a homemade kit. I got a big toolbox from Harbor Freight. It was like a plastic toolbox, and just filled it with a bunch of first aid supplies too. You could do that, or you could go over the top and you could get the freaking field medic pack from Refuge Medical. This thing is pretty spendy, but it has an amazing capability. It's got all kinds of stuff in it. So there's lots of different things you can do as far as getting prepared from a medical perspective, but probably more important than actually getting the packs is actually getting the training. You really need to understand how to stop the bleed. You really need to understand how to use all these materials, what order to go, you know, put them on, and all that kind of stuff. There is some method to the madness there. So Refuge Medical offers training. Skinny Medic offers training. I think Patriot Nurse has got training. I mean, local first aid, you know, or Red Cross, you know, might be able to find training there. Local S.E.R.E teams, the DHS, FEMA, S.E.R.E teams, you might be able to get some training there. Just, you know, look into it and see what you can find. If you just put in first aid training in your city and state into Google, then you're probably going to come up with something. Okay, number 5 is consider water purification. So if your water supply is interrupted or contaminated, what are you going to do? Can you gather water? Can you transport water from wherever the local water source is? Do you have large pots, you know, big stock pots like those used in canning and stuff like that, so you can purify several liters at one time? Can you purify the water that you have stored? Maybe you're storing stuff in barrels and that kind of thing or whatever. If that gets contaminated with mold and mildew and whatever, because it will over time in most cases, even if you pre-treat it, then can you purify it when you're coming back out of there? So just think about that. There's lots of different sources. I have a reverse osmosis system in my basement. Done some videos on that for you guys. I set it up so that I can use it normally day to day at my kitchen sink, so I'm not having to drink all out of bottled water. Or I also have another spout located downstairs in the basement in case there was, some sort of a disaster where I had to shelter in place or whatever the case may be. I'd have some water down there as well. And then I can also pull that water with a pump that I set up from the bucket, the barrels, the 15-gallon barrels that I have down there as well. So that's just one option. Again, I've got an affiliate link down there if you want to check those things out. That's from the new Aqua systems. It's a pretty cool option. Lots of different options out there. I'm also an affiliate with Grayl for small hand size things. Pick your own, do your own research and look and see what you think is the best. But you got to think about how you're going to boil water. Probably the simplest way is just having those stock pots and being able to, have like a propane stove or something underneath it if your stove wasn't working, so that you could get that water to boil. But how are you going to get it back and forth? Those are big considerations. So number 6 is, can you defend yourself in your home? So this is really more than just own a firearm. You got to go out and take some classes. If you can get to the cool guy YouTube classes like Warrior Poet Society and John Lovell and those guys, or I don't know who else has them nowadays, but go for it. Thunder Ranch is another one. What is it? Is there Point Blank, I think? I don't know. There's lots of different classes out there. If you want to go to some high-speed stuff, that's cool. I think that what I sent my son to just recently was the NRA's Defense Outside the Home class, and then the NRA's Defense Inside the Home class. And both of those two classes did a really good job of getting him pretty well spun up on what he needed to know. I feel like it did a pretty good job. Is it perfect? No. And did he have a lot of training before he went to those classes? Yes, he did. I taught him a lot. But from a legal perspective and that kind of thing, I think they did a pretty decent job. Now, that's going to be instructor dependent and everything. I think we got pretty lucky with the instructor we had. But even some basic classes like that for home defense is really, really good to know. And if you don't want to go, if you feel like you know how to shoot, then at least spend some time researching your state's laws and know what your state laws are. I think USCCA, USCCA, has probably one of the better websites out there for like state gun laws and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so you want to make sure you take a class. You want to make sure you're practicing with it regularly. Make sure you've got the right kind of ammo. Do you know the difference between cover and concealment, and where you can take cover in your home, where the shooting lanes are? You have to think about the fact that these bullets will pass through multiple layers of drywall, insulation, and all that kind of thing. So where is it safe for you to shoot from? Spend a little bit of time thinking about that before you get too far down the road. So number 7 is, can you generate your own power? The power grid reliability is going to become more and more unstable for at least the next 6 to 10 years. It's going to be a while. So take a look at your power consumption needs and identify a good alternative power generation source for your situation. Now, if you're a single guy in a small apartment or a condo or something like that, you're probably, or maybe even a married, couple or whatever, you probably don't need a whole lot more than like an EcoFlow Delta Max or something like that. Something that provides 2 to 3 kilowatts of power, something like that. If you wanted to go with a solar generator type that you could silently use and silently recharge in the sun and that kind of thing, that's going to probably be your best bet from a prepper perspective. But you could also, if you live a little bit more rurally, you don't have as many people around you, and noise is not as big of a deal, then you could look at just a regular generator and having, I recommend propane as a fuel for those. But power generation is something that more and more people are going to need to look at over the next several years. And the reason that is because the green agenda that has been implemented and passed, they've already allocated hundreds of billions of dollars, so probably all in all, towards this agenda. And that means that the money is going to get spent. And so that means that solar and wind are the two primary options right now. Those are going to be utilized. They're going to be put on the grid, and that's going to make the grid more unreliable. And then you add on top of that weather events and different things like that. You add on top of that electric vehicles, putting more and more strain on the grid. Then there's going to be more instability. So whatever size it is that you need, get that figured out. You could look at a whole house generator like a Generac generator. I did a video on that in the past, installing one of those in my home in Nebraska. I had a 1,000-gallon propane tank, so running that full time would give me about 2 weeks of power if I had 800 gallons of fuel in the tank. The other option is griddown.com. I did an interview this morning with Andrew, one of the founders of the company, and they have come up with a really cool EMP hardened system that is sizable, from all the way from 13.5 kilowatts all the way up to 81 kilowatts. So depending on what your budget is, you can pretty much, sky's the limit on that. And the cool thing about that system, and I really like it, is that system will go, it'll allow you to do a combination of uses. So it can be off-grid, or it can be on-grid, or it can be a hybrid where it's both. So that means while the power is up, you can use the AC grid to charge your batteries, and you can also take energy from your solar panels if you combine solar with it, and you can sell that power back to the power company to make your power bill lower every month. So you're getting a return on the investment, right? They say it's average is about $1,200 per year savings on that aspect of it. Then if the power goes out, you can either have an automatic shut-off transfer switch or a manual transfer switch, which is separate from the unit. And you can go directly into battery mode, right? So then you can run off your batteries and you can recharge with your solar and just basically have an off-grid contained system right there. Then when the power comes back up, you can switch it back over. There are not very many, if any, systems that do that natively, as far as I know. And you guys can let me know in the comments below if there are some others, but like Tesla Powerwall and all that kind of stuff, I don't believe that they do that. I don't think the Generac one does either. So it's usually either one or the other. You're either off-grid totally, or you're on the grid, and that's it. But this one does too. So check that out at griddown.com. And again, I can save you 7% off the total of that. Those are pretty expensive systems, but so it ends up being like more than $1,000 discount. And then you also can get a 30% tax credit on that. So with that, it ends up being like $5,000 off the price if you qualify for those discounts. So pretty cool. There will be a link down in the description below on that. So number 8, disasters do happen fairly regularly all over the country, but they're not normally nationwide disasters. They're usually local or regional events. And in those situations, you will likely be relying on your neighbors and your friends to help you clean up and get rebuilt. It would go a long ways for you if you can know your neighbors before an incident. Knowing their strengths and weaknesses is important so that you can know what they can and can't handle and how they might be able to be of assistance. But also, it's really, what's the right way to put this? You're going to be able to provide for your security much more effectively if you know the people who live around you and you know that they're like-minded or at least have some common bonds with you and stuff like that. If you have relationships with them, people are in an emergency situation are way less likely to become violent with somebody that they have a previous relationship with and that they know already versus somebody that has lived next door to them for 6 years and they've never spoken to. when you go through the mental processes of deciding that I'm going to go over and take this guy's stuff, if you have a relationship with that person, it's a much higher bar to get somebody to do that. Like, they have to be way closer to the psychopath level to be able to do that, or they have to be in a much more desperate situation to get there. But if they don't know you and they've never met you and they have no connection with you, then it's a lot easier to make those decisions to do that, and it really lowers the bar a whole lot. So it's in your own self-interest to get to know the people who live around you at some level. It doesn't mean that you have to bring them in and let them know that you're a prepper or anything like that, but you can kind of just try to get to know them a little bit, talk to them a little bit about the situations that happen, the stuff that happened in COVID and all that, and just slowly kind of feel out what's their take on things, over time. OPSEC is important. You don't want to go over telling everybody, yes, I'm a prepper, I got all this food or that food or whatever, that kind of thing. That's not what I'm talking about. But just developing a basic relationship with people. A lot of people on YouTube talk about prepper groups and all this kind of stuff and everything, and that's a great goal to get to. But the sad reality of the situation is most people never get there. Never. They never are ever a part of any kind of group or anything like that. Most people will have family and friends, somebody who's around them, or people that they've developed that they've kind of, given the wink of the nod and say, hey, if we ever have an issue, show up at the house and we'll help you out, and or that kind of thing. Or maybe they go out shooting together and and then that kind of stuff, and they kind of have a relationship that way. Or maybe they go hiking together, or camping together, or something like that, and they kind of develop relationships there. But this idea that there are, thousands of prepper groups out there, in suburban areas, is just not real. It's fantasy, and so I think that it makes a lot more sense to focus on your friends and your neighbors. Now, I'm not saying that prepper groups don't exist; they do exist. But those groups are probably, most of those groups are pretty thoroughly penetrated, without saying too much more than that. I wouldn't be in one personally. I would not ever join a prepper group, and I did a whole video talking about this. I wouldn't be in a prepper group online, and I wouldn't be. That's why I closed down the one that I had on Facebook, because I was not comfortable with it. And I wouldn't ever even tell anybody that you have this prepper group. That's silly. Just have friends. You don't have to be anything more than that. You just be friends. You're just neighbors. Oh, that's my neighbor Tom. Yeah. There don't have to be any rank structure. There don't have to be any rules. There don't have to be anything, whatever. We're just neighbors. We live close to each other. If we ever get in trouble, we'll help each other out. That's it. That's all you got to do. That's the basics of it. There's nothing mystical about it. It doesn't need to be anything more than that for the vast majority of situations. If you've got that basic layer covered, if anything bad does happen, you can put together the rest of those things pretty quickly if you already have the skeleton crew, the outline of the major players involved, right? It's just not very realistic, and I know a lot of channels will tell you that, and I've tried to drive this home in multiple videos, but I don't know for sure if people really get it. I think a lot of people out there think, how in the world would I ever join a prepper group? I don't even know where to start. I've looked on Facebook and YouTube and all that, and I'm sure that the feds are watching this and that and all that kind of stuff or whatever, and I don't feel comfortable talking to people there or whatever, and that's completely understandable. But you don't need any of that stuff. You just need to go walking around your house, a mile or two, from your house, and find the people that are in that area, and that's who you got to choose from, really. When it really comes down to it, that's the people you have to choose from. And if you don't like those choices, if you don't like the people that you see, they're not all going to move. So that means you have to. Just throwing that out there. Okay, so that was number 8. Number 9 is cell phones are not likely to work in regional disasters, and so having some sort of an alternate ability to communicate with your neighbors and your friends, who we were just talking about, can be very helpful, especially if you have a situation where looters are out trying to steal stuff and all that kind of thing. Look, you can get, the cheapo Baofeng radios, the little Baofeng GMRS radios, or the MERS radios. They work really good. They work really good, and they're really cheap. So you could have 6 or 8 of them for a couple $100, and the chargers and the earpieces and all that kind of stuff. And if something happened, you go pass those radios out to all your neighbors and say, hey guys, here's a radio. Leave it on during the night. I'll leave mine on during the night. If anybody has any issues, give us a call. We'll be down to help you out. Something like that. Cell towers are not likely to work. Maybe you get some texting coverage and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of times it's just down. So radios are the second best way to go, and they're going to also enable you to be able to speak to your neighbors, and so that could be important. Number 10 is the just-in-time delivery system is pretty fragile. And what that means is that the way that our shipping industry is set up and timed is so that basically the trucks come into the grocery store just about 24 hours before the grocery stores need to stock the shelves and need to be able to sell everything. Otherwise, they're going to run out and the shelves are going to be empty. So there's this continual flow of trucks out to grocery stores, delivering their produce and everything. And the grocery stores only keep about 3 days or so worth of food in there, and that's for normal purchasing patterns. If you get a storm or anything like that comes up, or any kind of emergency, that food and that stuff's going to be sold out quick. We saw a lot of that in COVID, right? So you just want to keep some extra food in your house. Shoot for, starting out with, go for 2 weeks. 2 weeks of food that you normally eat on a regular basis. You try to get some stuff that actually has a longer shelf life. That'd be great. I have a full list of, it was for a family of 4, different long-term shelf life foods, 2 years or more, 2 to 5 years, most of them, and what the caloric content is and how many you would need to get and everything like that to equal a year's worth of food. You can download that list over on Substack. You go to realitysurvival.substack.com and then hit the downloads tab, and you can get that Excel spreadsheet for free, and you can modify it and change it to however you want for your stuff. You don't got to have a year. Just get a couple weeks to start out with. Then after you get a couple weeks, try to bump it up to a month. Maybe shoot for 3 months eventually. If you get 3 months worth of food, you're going to be doing better than 90% of people in America, and you're going to be fine in more than 90% of different disasters that are out there. That's probably fine. If you want to shoot for a year or 2 or more, and you want to be all high-speed prepper cool, that's cool. That's fine. It doesn't hurt, but to cover the majority of real things, 2 weeks is a great start. A month is really good, and 3 months is outstanding. So, and you can do that with the stuff that you normally eat. You don't have to get a bunch of stuff like wheat berries and stuff like that's going to last forever that you're never going to eat. Or dried beans and stuff. I mean, I've got videos showing how to put that stuff up if you want to, but it's unlikely that you're going to have to break into that stuff anytime soon. Okay, so those are my 10. I would ask the more experienced preppers who sat through this to add in the comments what you think the next 3 or 4 or 5 items ought to be. This is just the things that I thought were most important to impart to a new prepper. This isn't geared towards advanced prepping and that kind of thing, but I think if we could get even half of people to do this much, we would be a lot better off. We'd be a lot better off. So share this video if you wouldn't mind it. The algorithm has been killing me lately. I've got over 100,000 subscribers, and it took 10 years to get there. 12 years, I guess, 12 years to get there. So it's a slow, long haul to get up to that point. And some of my most recent videos get 200-300 views in a day, which is kind of ridiculous. But anyhow, I appreciate it when you guys watch it, when you share it, when you click the thumbs up. And more than anything, I really appreciate it if you go to realitysurvival.substack.com and get signed up over there. There's a totally free option, and all I'm asking you for is your email address so that I can send you notifications when I upload videos. And if you want to help me educate other people about disaster preparedness, then I've got a special going on the paid memberships right now for, I think it's like $40 a year. It's like 33% off. And over there we do paid giveaways for the paid subscribers. We do free giveaways for the paid subscribers. And I don't have it with me right now, but this month in August, it's going to be a Ned Foss hatchet and a Silky Boy pocket saw. So pretty cool little bushcrafting items and camping items. We try to always make the value somewhere around $100 to $150 per month. So it's a pretty good value. And we've only got like 70-ish paid subscribers. So it's your odds of winning are pretty good. So I think if you're interested in that kind of thing, you can check that out. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to live 6 P's. Proper prior preparation prevents poor performance. Stay safe.